Some men chase what they think women want. The car, the absolute, the clever lines. And for a while, it seems to work. She smiles. She texts back. She shows interest. But then, without warning, it fades. She pulls away. Like your presence lost its gravity. You were still consistent, still loyal, still showing effort. But something shifted, and here's the truth. It wasn't because you weren't enough. It was because you didn't touch the part of her that remembers you when you're gone. The part that aches when she doesn't hear from you. The part that wonders, what is he thinking? C-. There are invisible dynamics between men and women. Subtle, psychological, ancient. When activated, they don't just attract a woman, they hold her. Not because you chase her, but because she feels pulled into your world, without even knowing why. And the best part? These aren't tricks. They're principles, rooted in real psychology and carved from the core of Stoic masculinity, the kind of man who moves with calm, who doesn't seek approval, but commands respect by how he carries himself. Society has trained men to perform, to impress, to win her over. But true connection isn't built on performance, it's built on presence. If you've ever felt like you were giving more than you got, if you've ever watched a woman slowly lose interest, without any clear reason, you're not broken. You just haven't been taught the real game. Because the real game isn't about chasing, it's about becoming. In this video, we'll go through 7 forces that make a woman emotionally attached, sometimes even obsessed, with a man who lives with purpose, not all at once, not with effort, but because he knows who he is. If you're ready to attract women without chasing, drop a comment. I'm ready to become magnetic. Let's begin. The possibility of commitment. Before anything real can grow, there has to be a sense of possibility, not certainty, not a promise carved in stone, but a quiet, magnetic maybe. That's what pulls her in. Not the man who says, "I'll give you everything," but the man who lives like his world is something worth being part of. She becomes attached, not because you swear loyalty, but because she can imagine what life beside you could feel like. It's that question that keeps her up at night. Could this be real? Now here's where most men slip. Some rush into commitment, believing speed will secure her affection. Others play it too cool, thinking distance will build mystery. But both paths lead to the same place: disconnection. Why? Because women don't bond through pressure or confusion. They bond through anticipation, not in games, but in emotionally alive spaces. Think about it. You're getting to know someone. Instead of laying down your life story or hinting at marriage, you let your presence speak. You take your time. You show her how you move through the world, how you make decisions, how you treat people. She starts to wonder, do I fit into this man's rhythm? Am I the kind of woman he sees in his future? And that shift, when she starts to assess herself for you, that's when real attachment begins. You're not another man chasing her. You're a man she hopes to earn a place beside. That's the difference. Now here's the Stoic truth. You don't force clarity. You don't panic when she asks, "So, what are we?" You don't bluff and you don't beg. You stay grounded. You respond with calm presence. I'm enjoying this. I value getting to know you. It's honest. It's balanced. It's real. When you live from that space, where commitment is possible, but never desperate, you create emotional gravity. She doesn't feel chased. She feels chosen. She doesn't feel rushed. She feels safe in the uncertainty. And in that stillness, you become the kind of man she hopes to be enough for. That's not a tactic. That's an energy. And that's how obsession begins. 2. Making your attention like a drug. Some men believe that constant attention is love. They send texts every hour, plan dates back to back, ask, "Are you okay?" even when she's just quiet. But here's the truth. For a woman, real attraction lives in contrast, not in the flood of attention, but in the rare spark that feels intentional. Think of your attention like flame. If it's always burning, she forgets it's even there. But if it ignites only when she's near, with warmth, presence, and focus, it becomes unforgettable. That's the difference between a man she likes and a man she can't stop thinking about. Most men give attention like background music, always on, easy to ignore, predictable, but attention that's deliberate. That's what changes everything. Picture this. You're on a date. You're not checking your phone. You're not distracted. You're fully present. You listen deeply. You make her feel seen, desired. For those few hours, she feels alive, like she's the only woman in the world. And then you disappear. Not because you're playing a game, but because you return to your life, your craft, your mission. You're not being cold. You're being complete. This creates space. It lets her feel the silence. Replay your words. Relive the eye contact. Feel the electricity. And in that space, the craving grows. Not because you vanished, but because your presence was worth missing. That's how you go from being a nice guy to becoming a man she replays in her mind. You become rare. And what's rare is remembered, even desired, like a luxury scent that lingers in memory, or a song she wants to hear again. Now ask yourself, are you giving her attention, or are you giving her an experience? Attention should be sacred, not sprayed like cologne, but chosen like a gift. This is where Stoicism comes in. You don't give to get. You give with clarity, with measure, with presence. Your time is valuable. Your energy is finite. So don't waste it trying to prove something. Invest it where it matters. When you do that, your attention becomes addictive, not because it overwhelms, but because it elevates. And when she feels elevated in your presence, but grounded in your absence, you create the kind of contrast. That makes her crave more. That's not manipulation. That's maturity. That's not a tactic. That's masculine restraint. That is power. 3. Using silence to your advantage. Most men fear silence. They rush to fill the quiet with words, with jokes, with reassurance, because silence feels uncomfortable and discomfort feels like danger. But a high-value man, he sees silence differently, not as a void dash, but as a signal, a place where something real can take shape. See, in silence, a woman leans in. She listens. She starts to feel instead of just hear. It's not emptiness. It's depth. It's space for emotions to breathe. Modern dating is noisy. Endless texts, flashing notifications, people talking to be heard, but not to connect. That's why silence stands out. It's a lighthouse in a storm. Imagine this. You're sitting across from her. She shares something real, a memory, a pain, a dream. Most men would interrupt, try to comfort, try to fix. But you pause, you hold eye contact, you nod, and you say, nothing. In that pause, she doesn't feel dismissed. She feels held. She doesn't feel alone. She feels understood, not because of your reply, but because you allowed the moment to exist. That's presence. That's power. It goes beyond conversation. When you don't rush to reply to her texts, not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're living your life. You're sending a silent message. You're not addicted to attention. You're not chasing approval. You're grounded, rooted, occupied with purpose. And she begins to wonder, what's he thinking? Is he thinking of me? That's when the silence becomes magnetic. Stoic men understand restraint. We don't speak to fill the air. We speak when it matters. We don't move to prove a point. We move when it's time. And in silence, we give others room to reveal themselves. Here's something subtle. When you're quiet, she projects her own thoughts onto you, her hopes, her fears, her desire. She fills the blank spaces with meaning, and that's where the bond grows. But like all powerful things, silence must be used with care. Too much, and it feels like distance, coldness, disinterest. Use it like punctuation. Let it shape your rhythm. Pause when she says something deep. Let her words echo before yours arrive. Let the silence make your presence louder, because sometimes the most unforgettable thing you can say is nothing at all. 4. Creating small concessions. Most men think that to win a woman's heart, they have to give more time, more attention, more gifts. But here's a quieter truth. If you want her to truly value you, you have to let her invest. Not in grand gestures, not in dramatic sacrifices, but in the small things, the tiny, almost invisible ways. She steps closer to you, because when a woman gives a part of herself, even something small, her heart follows. This isn't manipulation, it's human psychology. It's called the commitment and consistency principle. When someone invests time, effort, or care, their mind naturally starts to believe, this must be important. This must be worth it. Think about it. You're on your third date. Instead of planning every detail, you say, hey, bring that bottle of wine you mentioned. Simple, effortless, but now she's contributed, or she once told you about a playlist she loved. You ask her to send it. You show genuine interest. Now she's not just receiving from you, she's sharing her world with you. That's intimacy. That's investment. But here's where most men go wrong. They either demand too much, or they do everything themselves, thinking it shows strength. Real strength is creating space for her to give, not because you need it, but because you're inviting her into your rhythm, your process, your life. Every small yes she gives you builds emotional equity, and the more she gives, the more she feels connected. She's not just a guest anymore. She's part of something she's helping to build. And when she's building, she's belonging. That's how attachment grows. Not through one massive moment, but through countless tiny threads woven quietly over time. Tone matters. You're not delegating tasks. You're opening doors. And every time she steps through one, you acknowledge it. You appreciate it. You see it. A simple thank you after a small gesture can echo louder than 1,000 compliments. Because what she really craves is not just to be adored, it's to feel necessary, valued, included. Over time, she won't just see you as someone she enjoys. She'll see you as someone she's committed to, because she's already planted roots in your world, and people fight to protect what they help grow. If you're ready to let her invest in you, drop a comment. I'm building something worth choosing. 5. Building a narrative she believes in. Attraction is only the spark. Connection is the fire that keeps burning. If you want a woman to feel truly bonded to you, you must offer more than chemistry. You must offer a story, because women don't just fall in love with a man. They fall in love with the meaning they attach to him. It's not about the laughs, the dates, the gifts. It's about what those moments represent. When she looks back, what story does she tell herself? Was she just another fleeting chapter? Or was she part of a journey worth remembering? Picture this. You're laughing together, uncontrollably, and you say, I don't remember the last time I laughed this hard. There's something about your energy that feels lighter. That's not just a compliment. It's narrative building. You're saying, dash. This connection matters. This is different. Later, you call back to shared memories. You know, this reminds me of that night we talked for hours at the cafe. Suddenly, every shared experience becomes a thread, and those threads weave a story where she plays a meaningful role. But here's the Stoic truth. You don't craft stories to manipulate. You don't fabricate meaning just to hook her in. You live with presence. You speak with intention. You collect memories because you value them, not because you're trying to trap someone. And women can feel the difference. They feel when it's real. Be specific in your compliments, not "you're beautiful," but "there's something wild and thoughtful about the way you see the world. It makes being around you different." Let your actions back it up. Consistency, attention, presence. These are the plot points that tell her this isn't just another story. It's a story that matters, because once she believes, she's part of something bigger, something alive, something real. She won't want to be written out of it. If you're ready to build a story that matters, drop a comment. I live with presence. 6. Making her feel unique. Once a woman feels connected, the next step is even deeper. Making her feel truly unique. Every woman wants to be seen, not just admired for beauty, but recognized for something no one else notices. And this is where most men fail. They offer generic compliments. You're gorgeous. You're amazing. Nice words, but forgettable, because she's heard them before 100 times, from men who never really looked. But when you notice the small things, the way her smile changes when she talks about her passions, the timing of her jokes, how her voice softens when she speaks of what she loves, you create something rare. You make her feel irreplaceable. Imagine she tells you she loves classical music. Later, you casually say, "I listened to Debussy the other day. I finally understood what you meant, how it's peaceful, yet haunting." In that moment, she doesn't just feel complimented, she feels understood. You're not just praising, you're reflecting her world back to her, and that is powerful. Making her feel unique isn't about big gestures. It's about precision. It's about remembering the little things, not to impress, but to genuinely connect. Maybe she mentions her favorite dessert. You show up with it. No grand speech, just a quiet smile. She thinks to herself, he actually listens. And that thought, that realization, builds trust, builds affection, builds meaning. Here's the deeper Stoic layer. A Stoic man listens not to reply, not to flatter, but to truly know. He listens with presence. He listens without an agenda. And in that sacred space, a woman feels safe enough. to let go of her defenses, to be herself. That's when real connection happens, not through perfection, but through understanding. If you're ready to see her the way no one else does, drop a comment. I listen with presence. 7. Challenge her gently. If you truly want to stand apart, don't just make her feel adored. Make her grow. Most men fall into one of two traps. They either agree with everything she says, hoping to stay in her good graces, or they argue every point, trying to dominate the conversation. Both paths fail, not because women dislike affection or strength, but because neither shows true respect, for her mind or for your own. A high-value man chooses a different road. He doesn't challenge to win. He challenges to elevate. The conversation, the connection, even her. Imagine she says, "I think traveling is the best way to grow as a person." Instead of agreeing blindly or dismissing her thought, you pause, smile, and ask, do you think someone can still grow if they never leave their hometown? Not combative, not confrontational, just curious, just present. That single moment sparks something deeper. Now, she's not just emotionally engaged, she's intellectually alive. Most men miss this. Women don't just crave emotional intimacy, they crave mental stimulation. They want to be challenged, but in a way that's playful, respectful, exciting. You can tease her lightly, push her perspective gently, invite her to step forward. Maybe you say, "You always talk about your great taste. Why don't you plan our next date and show me?" Now she's not just a passenger, she's a partner. She's investing, engaging, creating alongside you. This kind of dynamic keeps the energy alive. You're not predictable. You're not bending to please. You're not shutting her down either. You're moving on that delicate line where chemistry truly lives. And here's the Stoic truth. You hold firm to your values, but you stay open to her mind. You don't argue for ego. You seek growth, truth, clarity. In that space, she sees something rare. A man who respects himself enough to lead and respects her enough to invite her along. When you challenge her in the right way, you don't just excite her emotions. You awaken her mind. You ignite her feminine energy, all at once. If you're ready to lead with presence, drop a comment. I elevate those around me. Once a woman feels that balance, she doesn't just like you. She becomes captivated by you, not because you forced it, but because you lived it. Now that we've uncovered all 7 emotional triggers, it's time to bring everything together. And we close this journey with integrity. You haven't just learned tactics. You've uncovered tools of presence, of strength, of purpose. Elements that don't just attract women, they anchor them. Quietly, deeply, irresistibly. But here's the truth most men overlook. These 7 triggers aren't tricks. They are reflections of the man you become. When you stop chasing validation and start leading with intention, let's Recap. When you offer the possibility of commitment, not rushed, not withheld, you create wonder. When your attention is rare and deliberate, you become addictive. When you embrace silence, you stand apart in a world drowning in noise. When you invite her to make small concessions, you pull her gently into your life. When you build a narrative she can believe in, you offer her meaning, not just memories. When you make her feel uniquely seen, you touch the deepest part of her spirit. And when you challenge her mind, not to dominate, but to elevate, you earn her respect and her obsession. Understand this. None of these are about controlling her. They're about embodying presence, precision, purpose. Because at the center of a woman's deepest desire isn't a man who tries to impress. It's a man so alive, so authentic, that she's drawn into his gravity without resistance. And that's who you are becoming, not through games, not through manipulation, but through discipline, awareness, and courage. Now here's your next step. Pick one of these 7 shifts, just one. Apply it this week. Let her feel the difference. Let yourself feel the difference. Then return here. Comment what you experienced, what changed. If you found value here, like this video. Subscribe for more insights on leading your life and relationships. With wisdom, with stillness, with undeniable strength. Remember, high-value men don't seek validation. They become the standard. And women, they don't just follow, they attach. Until next time, stay grounded, stay intentional, and stay true to your worth.